Hey everyone, welcome to Impact Marketer. Today's guest is a serial entrepreneur, growth hacker, and digital marketer. The host and creator of the Cult of Startup podcast, founder of Hevi Media, a full-service agency specializing in e-commerce brands, graduating with a degree in agriculture only to realize that he didn't enjoy using his degree. Completely self-taught and manages 5 figures per month in ad spend, directly responsible for over 2 million in new business for his clients, generating 5 figures per month, and all while having a team of 2. He is the definition of a lean startup, doing what I've always thought was impossible, which is to create something in near isolation as he lives in the small town of San Luis Obispo, defying all odds that your environment determines your outcome. Recently losing 50 pounds while tripling the revenue of his business, he's proof that success influences every aspect of your life. Please help me in welcoming Luke Bayard.
What's up, y'all? I'm here.
Cool, man. So welcome, guys, to Talk of the Day with Rony, where we talk about mindset. And today on the show, we have Luke Bayard. So I have a few questions for you, man, but it is also very free-flowing as well. So first question is, you recently lost 50 pounds in 4 months. Was that easy for you, or did you get in your own way?
So I gained that weight over the last, let's say, 7 years or so. And I previously, before I did entrepreneurship stuff, I actually was a fitness trainer. So I was way into working out. I had clients and stuff like that. And that sort of experience actually parlayed into me doing entrepreneurship. And I always knew that I wanted to lose that weight again. And some life events happened for me, and I realized that, hey, this is actually an opportunity. I have a window of time to lose this weight. So at my highest, I was right around 260. And as of right now, I'm at about 185. I changed my diet. I changed my outlook. I started viewing food as fuel. I upticked all my workouts I was doing and just tried to really set into motion some discipline in my life. And it was a complete game changer, because once I got that rhythm sort of dialed in, it allowed me the freedom to do what I want. So I'm a big believer in that. If you have the discipline, that actually may seem like or feel like you're actually sort of holding yourself down by creating these rules around you, but you're really not. It actually enables you to do more in your life by having discipline. So
why did it take you 7 years?
I got busy in startup stuff. I got busy with college. I just ended up putting on the weight, and I honestly kind of hated looking at myself for a long period of time, knowing that I used to have this somewhat perfect physique because I was a personal trainer. Like, I had a really high standard in my mind as to what I could look like. And it kind of warned me at times. Like, it really was somewhat of an ego blow for me. And to be back at that weight and fitting into like size 32 pants that I haven't fit into for years, and trashing a bunch of size 36 and 38 pants feels damn good. So, I mean, I let life catch up to me. I dug deep into startup stuff, and it just, I really changed my mindset. I realized that it was an opportunity to do it. And I said, I've seen in my life over and over again that if there's a window or a chance to take it at bat at something, you should freaking try to do it.
So, okay, how did that window look like for you in this instance?
Business changed quite a bit. At a client that was sort of my main bread and butter of what I was doing, fizzle out pretty quickly. Still a great friend of mine, still a great person and individual, but the relationship was getting somewhat tedious at that time. And I ended up losing the client, which happens in this industry. Like, it's totally normal to lose a client. It's not out of the ordinary to lose a client, because everybody has different expectations. Everybody has different things that they want to do. And the grass can always be green on the other side, of course. So that happened. And I kind of said, you know what, this is a time where I really need to refocus on every aspect of both my personal life, fitness life, as well as business life. And I said, all right, I'm going to just start operating in this way. And said, from here on out, I'm going to do it this way. So I went about trying to close more clients, doing more prospecting, and finding more people to do work for. And I started being very diligent with my schedule. That every day I at least planned going to the gym between like 10 p.m. and midnight to go lift weights or do cardio, or like midday I'd go do like a hot yoga session or something like that. And I try to at least have the threshold of 3 to 5 times a week I was doing that. And I eventually realized that my body kind of fed off of that. And it reminded me of my personal trainer days, where I kind of had that extra energy, where if I didn't get my exercise, I kind of went crazy. And I was sort of happy to sort of realize, like, oh, I've got that back. I miss that feeling. That feeling is super familiar. And it really fuels me to have that kind of feeling like, oh, if I don't exercise, like I'm kind of going to be crazy that day. So that whole entire mindset shift and then getting into that flow was the game changer for me. So losing something in order to gain something really was what happened in my life. And it was, I mean, my agency was doing just fine beforehand. It was making decent money. Like I was living a lifestyle that I was really happy with, but I had never really taken the chance to be like, all right, can I level up the game across everything? I said, all right, here's the time. And I did it.
During that time, was it like you lost that client or that relationship, and then it created maybe a pain that you wanted to get away from? Like,
yeah, maybe
a
it
breakup,
was a
if you
pain.
will?
Yeah, it could be somewhat of a pain. I would say it was I would say they were one of my very first clients. And being in an agency when you first start out, you end up sort of servicing more things than you're supposed to. You become a jack of all trades, and I'm grateful for this individual because honestly, without them, I would not know what I know now. From inventory management systems to building websites to using growth hacking tactics, like I basically became a online marketer because of this individual and the opportunity they gave me. So I guess you could say it was somewhat of a breakup thing that did occur, that kind of emotion happened in it. But I mean, still to this day, I'm extremely grateful for that individual. Like they gave me a chance. They offered me, and just as sort of a long story short, this was an individual I knew in college, was really good friends with them, and they had started an e-commerce brand after they had graduated. And my last year of college, I was building like WordPress sites for doctors and lawyers. Very, very standard thing to do that entrepreneurs, it's kind of easy to get into that game. And usually those people have money so they can pay. So there's some benefit there. And she asked me, hey, could you rebuild my site? And I said, I don't do e-commerce. She's like, take 6 months and learn it and let me know how much it's going to cost to rebuild my site. And that one sort of decision in my life of like learning it and saying, here's how much it's going to cost, completely changed the trajectory of what I was doing. I went from doing WordPress sites to now fully Shopify. And then about a year or so into working with that client, I started managing their ads, started managing their email, and started doing all this other stuff. And I was like, hey, there's more money in this. And then our business blew up. I mean, it went from being just an operation that was handling a couple thousand a month to an operation that was having to handle 50,000 in sales. Like those are very, very different businesses to manage, both on the operational side as well as the whole entire customer support side. I mean, there's so many things that will pop up when you're having to shell out that many orders per month.
How did you have the confidence to take on that project when you had no experience in that field?
Um, my the way I learned about e-commerce was um, I freaking hate reading. Like I really hate reading, but I love podcasts. So I like passive learning a lot. So I found like 4 or 5 podcasts and I just started listening to them and took notes while I was listening to them and just would go, oh, like what's this one app? Or oh, what's this one feature? Or oh, what's this one template? And over time I would have both the like criteria of good things that would go into a store as well as stores that were examples. So usually they'd be interviewing some guest who owned a certain shop that did something. So I go, oh, like this nutrition shop. This countdown timer actually worked really good on Black Friday for them or something like that. So I had some of a catalog of the items that I could use and pull out. And I mean, I totally grossly underestimated the cost of building the site. It was a hell of a deal for her at the end of the day, but it allowed me to sort of cut my chops on like what to do and not to do in building a site. And I mean, as of right now, like our operations are significantly more tight in building a site. We are much more direct on the things that we ask out of our clients to make sure that we're both managing expectations and not overbuilding or underbuilding what the product is that they want in the end.
Did you always know that you had what it took to be successful?
No. A couple things about me. I grew up with per se a learning disability. I was diagnosed with like ADD when I was like in elementary school and always was sort of in special ed classes and it was always sort of barely scraping by. I barely made it out of college. I even failed out of college at one point and negotiated my way back into school to finish at Cal Poly. And I always knew that I wanted to do something on my own And that partially was because my dad, who is like an independent attorney, so he worked for a law firm for, I think, 15 years or so, and left that law firm to pursue mediation and arbitration independently. And I really, really like the attribute of him being able to, let's say, come to my baseball games or be able to go do things independently outside of having to, let's say, ask his boss. So that's something I picked up on and wanted to have that in my life. And I made the moves or try to make those moves along the way to end up at that point. And I had 2 failed startups before this, and maybe a couple of others that were semi-startup-y things. But it took me sort of putting myself out there and realizing, okay, like if I hustle this game and I make the right connections and things like that, likelihood of it panning out is higher. So I wouldn't say I always knew I was going to be successful or always had that sort of like desire. I do sort of have an addiction to progress. I will say in that time that I put on all that weight, I maybe let that fall a bit to the side. And I feel like I've kind of gotten that momentum back in the last 6 months to a year of like, all right, I can be addicted to progress again and have days where I'm really measuring myself much more accurately, let's say, of like, oh, like today I was able to put in this many hours, they were effective hours, my efficiency was roughly this, and really doing that sort of self-reflection has been a game changer for me. I know one thing I do is, and I've got it right here, I'll just mention it, is 5-minute journal. So, because I value my time quite a bit, so I like to wake up. It just has several questions in it that are like, hey, what are things that you're grateful for? What would make today great? And then some sort of like self-talk thing, like today I am confident to be disciplined in doing X, Y, and Z or something like that. And then I close out the day of things of like, what is it, like 3 things today that made it great? And then it's like, what could have made today better? And then usually I might write a second note at the very bottom of it, but it's very simple, straightforward. And it allows me to sort of look back and go, oh, like that day I had that emotion about this. That probably wasn't that positive. And then I'll look at like maybe the work results for that day and kind of really realize like, all right, this is why I need to not let that happen again, or know a game plan if that does happen again.
Why the emphasis on emotion?
Okay, so there's 2 things in there. I firmly believe that motivation is very fleeting in nature. So emotion and like motivation are positive things to have. Like there's certainly like nice to have things in your back pocket. Oh, this is the inspirational quote, or this one moment where I did something really cool, what have you. And then having on the other side of that, using your emotions and understanding like what you're going through that day, whether it's life events, relationship events, drama with clients, what have you. I think being able to sort of look at those things and being able to sort of detach yourself from them, if that makes any sense, that you sort of remove yourself from the situation, you're able to look at it with clearer eyes without having that emotion fully in it, and analyzing it and then reevaluating it with that emotion of like, okay, here's my drive to do something, is a way that's helped me out quite a bit, because sometimes you're having to make choices and you don't always want to be making those choices based off of an initial feeling, let's say.
For sure. Yeah. It sounds like a very mindful approach to life, which I can get behind for sure. Cool, man. So that was the Talk of the Day episode. Thanks so much, Luke.
Awesome.
And for dropping tons of knowledge bombs. Signing off.